guys, my name's Ella and today I want to talk to you about my experience with the Copper Coil. First things first, why did I want to get the coil? I had been on birth control pills for the past 10 years, so I started when I was 14 to help with period pains and regulating the periods, and then I just stayed on them. And by the time I was 23, I decided that's enough. I'm done with having a pill every single day of my life, except from the 7-day break. And I just wanted to see what my body would be like without hormones. I felt like I couldn't really distinguish who I was anymore without having these added hormones. And I thought, if I don't know how I would be feeling without the hormones, then maybe I should give it a go. I was suffering quite a lot with my mood, quite bad mood swings, and just feeling quite low all the time, basically. I wouldn't say it was depression, it was just like a constant fog or a haziness of blur with how I was feeling. And so I thought, right, it's time to come off the pill and see if that fogginess disappears. That was the hope. So I needed to figure out a different type of birth control. So I did some Googling and I discovered this thing called the coil. And at first I thought it looked scary, really scary. And then I did some more research on, people's experiences with the coil, and they were all terrible. So I was like, probably not going to do that. But something about it was kind of attractive to me, the fact that you don't have to take any pills or keep on top of it really at all. Once it's in, and that is that. And so I realised there were two different types of coils. There's the Marina coil and the Copper coil. The Marina coil still has some hormones, but obviously because it's up in your cervix, it's much more localised. So the plan is that you don't get as many of the hormonal effects as you do when you're on the pill with the Marina coil. The Copper coil is zero hormones. Something about the copper repels the sperm and then you don't get pregnant. Do your own research, because that's not how it actually is. So I thought, okay, I know the reviews are not that great, but something about the Copper coil and having absolutely zero hormones in my body other than my own is really appealing to me. So that's what I decided to go for. So let's talk about the procedure. Getting it inserted was fine. Let me just say that. The actual procedure, the insertion process, was absolutely fine. I think it's I've never had a smear test because I'm 24, and you don't get them in England until you're 25. But I feel like it's similar kind of instruments to what they use on a smear test. The only uncomfortable bit, or more uncomfortable bit, I would say, was when they have to go obviously inside you, but then they have to open up your cervix in order to put the coil in. It's about this big, it's tiny and it's really thin. They showed me it before and it looks fine. And yeah, when they open up the cervix, I would say that's moderately uncomfortable. It's just a very weird feeling, but I didn't feel what I would call pain. And it took about, I would say, 3 minutes, in and out, really quick. I got up after having it put in. I laid down for a minute after just to let things settle. Got up and then the nurse said, how are you feeling? Are you okay? And I was like, yeah. She was staring at me for a little while. She was like, are you sure? You're looking a little bit grey. So I was like, I feel a little bit sick actually. And so I had to lay down in a separate room, and I ended up being there in quite a lot of pain for about an hour. The pain I would describe as really strong period pains. Really, really strong. Stronger than any period pains I'd ever felt. I was with my boyfriend at the time and I was like, this feels like labour. I'm sure of it. This is what the early stages or the middle stages of labour would feel like. So I was just there. They gave me a hot compress to put on my stomach and I was just laying down curled up in a little ball in a lot of pain for an hour. After that hour, the pain settled down a little bit and I felt like I could get up and go home. We got an Uber home because I was definitely not getting on public transport. And then I just spent the whole rest of the day in bed. Hello. So I had the coil fitted at 9 a.m. this morning. It's now 4 o'clock, and it was much more painful than I had anticipated. And the actual procedure itself was fine, but it's the after pain that I did not expect. I've been in a huge amount of pain with my stomach. Nothing abnormal, I don't think. It's like the worst period pains I've ever had. I've got a pretty high pain tolerance, but it fucking hurt. And it still hurts. I feel like it's slowly getting a little bit better as the hours go by. I had planned to go into work this afternoon, but I'm a dancer and there is just no chance I'm getting out of this bed anytime soon. I can't even imagine walking too much right now. So yeah, I've called in sick for today. I'm hoping I'll be fine by tomorrow. I've spoke to quite a few friends and who've had it done before, and they said this is normal and give it a couple of days and it'll be fine. So hopefully I'll be back at work tomorrow. I just thought I'd give you an update on how I'm feeling when I'm feeling it, because man, it's tough. It's tough, but hopefully worth it. Especially if, you know, I've got the Copper Coil, so especially if it means no hormones and no worrying for the next 10 years. Great. So, we'll see. I'll keep you updated. The next day after that was fine. It was just like normal period pains with not much bleeding for me. I've heard a lot of people can have quite a lot of heavy bleeding after having the coil put in, but for me it was just a light period for maybe 3 days after, with moderate period pains that were fine and manageable with just some paracetamol and ibuprofen. The next 2 periods, I would say, were still very heavy, much heavier than what I had ever had for a period before having the coil. And actually I use a menstrual cup. I had asked when I had the coil fitted if it was okay to use a menstrual cup. My nurse said nope, no. She said they can't advise it because there have been cases where people have pulled their coil out with the suction of the menstrual cup. I went home and did a little bit of Googling, trusty old Google, and I decided that it was going to be okay to use the menstrual cup as long as I was extra careful when pulling the cup out to release the suction first. People say they've had no problems using the menstrual cup and the coil together, so I decided to give it a go and it's been absolutely fine. But in terms of the pain and the heaviness of the periods, I would say 3 months it took for it to start dying down a little bit. It's now been 6 months since I've had the coil fitted. The last 2 or 3 periods of mine have been really manageable, absolutely fine. The pain's been okay. I usually have a couple of paracetamol on the first or second day, and then the rest of the time is absolutely fine. And the heaviness has been much, much more manageable. The only thing I would say that I've noticed is much more pain when I'm menstruating, which is new to me. I was on the pill for so long. I don't think you technically menstruate on the pills, so maybe I'm just not used to feeling that at all, but I can definitely feel it now, which is interesting, but fine. Like, you don't need any painkillers for that, at least for me. It's manageable. So yeah, 6 months down the line, I'm feeling really great about having the coil. My mood has changed drastically. I feel like a different person. I just feel like I can manage the way I feel a lot more. So I do think the pill was having a big influence on how I was feeling. My skin is having a bit of a journey at the moment. I'm actually going to do a video documenting the skin thing as well. My skin is okay, I think, after I came off the pill, because I was on Lucette, and that pill I went on specifically to help with my skin, because my skin was terrible on microgynon, which was the pill that I was on before. Actually, I was on microgynon and then changed to Regividon, and Regividon did not work well for me and made my skin flare up. And so then I changed to Lucette, which was a much better pill for me, but I definitely think it influenced my mood more. But for my skin, it completely cleared up my skin. And so when I came off, my skin just went a little bit crazy. And I think it's still a little bit worse than it used to be, but I can definitely feel like it's clearing up. Especially some patches of my skin are not spotty anymore, and they used to be all the time. Whereas my forehead has lots of little tiny bumps all over it, and that went when I was on Lucette. So I think, yeah, I'm gonna wait and see how this influences my skin over the next 6 months or so as well. But other than that, if you're looking to try out the Copper Coil, I would highly recommend doing your research, and if you want to go for it, go for it. I don't think there's anything that bad about it. For me, my experience so far has been great. I'm only 6 months down the line, but my periods already are absolutely fine, more than manageable. I don't have to take tablets every day, which is amazing because I used to be terrible at taking the pill, not good. And generally in myself, I am feeling a lot better as well. It's just nice knowing that you're not putting hormones into your body that are not natural and don't need to be there. I feel a lot cleaner and just a lot more natural, which is what I was wanting from it. So all in all, highly recommend doing your research and at least giving the coil a go. It's not spoke about as much as it should be, and I think it definitely is a really viable option for contraception. I really hope this is helpful for you guys. If you have any questions, feel free to just leave them down below and I'll be happy to answer anything. But yeah, I hope this helped you. If you're going to get the coil done, good luck. It's not as bad as you think it might be or you've heard it might be. It's totally manageable and I would say worth it.